much do you guys think that Drew Sanders can contribute this season? I'm going to throw it over to Joey first. Joey, hit me with it.
I think he's going to contribute a little bit. I think he's going to shock people on how good he actually is. What's up, Samuel Castro in the building? How are you doing, man? We're all happy to be back as well. But back to the Drew Sanders take. I am also I think I'm higher on Drew Sanders than about anybody that I've seen. I really like Drew Sanders. I think he's going to shock people on how good he is. I think he's going to play. I think he's definitely going to play a role. Now, he might even outplay that role in my brain. I really do think that. He might start getting more reps as the season goes along because I think he's further along than people realize. And I also think that the Broncos will end up coming to that realization as well. I think you have Josie Jewell. He's a really good football player. I think the Broncos lack what he brings, specifically that athleticism, specifically that length, all that God-gifted talent that these other guys just do not have, Drew Sanders does have. And as the season progresses, I expect him to play better and better. I think that with more snaps, Drew Sanders is going to become a better football player. So I think he will play definitely a role, and I will say maybe even outplay that role. So I'm expecting big things from Drew Sanders. If I were to put money on a rookie producing, I would say that he would be the guy that I would put my money on.
So we're not even calling Drew Sanders a sleeper here for training camp. We're calling him an instant impact player for this roster.
For me, I just really like Drew Sanders, and I don't expect everybody to agree with me. I mean, the draft evaluation is all super subjective. I think I'm higher on him than most. I really do. But if I go back there and look at my notes, I'm going to trust it. I'm going to trust my process on it, and I'm going to say Drew Sanders is a really good football player, and he should play because of what I saw. So I do think that there's a chance that he outplays even just that role. Now, the low end, I still think it's a good bet because he's going to play this year. I do think that. I think that even on the low end, if he's not all the way ready to be a starting caliber linebacker, I think that he's going to be your best pass rushing linebacker. I think that he's your most athletic linebacker. I think there's scenarios where he will play no matter what.
Yeah, I linebacker's a heavy contact position, and you're going to have two guys in Josie Jewell and Alex Singleton. Singleton has some regression possibility. Like throughout his career, he was, a CFL guy, and then a problem kind of for the Eagles in 2021. That's why they had no problem moving on from him, and he signed for like a deal where the Broncos could have cut him in training camp. Now the money means he's going to be starting, but there is potential for regression. And if he does, maybe they get Drew Sanders into some situational play stuff. And then Josie Jewell has missed a couple games here or there every year. I think that's kind of typical, again, of the linebacker position with the contact. I wouldn't go as far as to say like injury prone because it's not big swaths of the season or serious injury, but guys get nicked up. There'll be chances for him to start a game here or there. And then his pass rushing ability really is special. I think that's the stuff that excites me most with him as a prospect. I think there will absolutely be room for him as a situational player because especially if you want like your linebackers to blitz on occasion, you can work him in. And I don't know. I think he can definitely contribute this year.
Sean Payton has made reference to Drew Sanders being that prototype sort of linebacker, obviously also getting praise from Alex Singleton. It'll be interesting to see how he fits in this season. We'll have eyes on him during training camp, and we'll be making sure that we bring all of that coverage to the Let's Talk Broncos community. I like the second question from Doc. How does Kareem Jackson fit in if Stearns wins the job outright? We've had many of conversations here, right, on Let's Talk Broncos concerning if the Broncos were going to bring Kareem Jackson back. What does that mean for Caden Stearns, who's primed and ready to be the starter here for the Denver Broncos? Guys, I want you to give it to me. Zach, how do you think he fits in?
This was a tough one. It kind of got me thinking. And I'm wondering if it's going to upset you and you're going to think I'm continuing to doubt Kareem Jackson, Bree.
Hater.
But it's kind of hard for me to see him.
I'm ready to mute you.
It's hard for me to see him at 32, 33 playing like a lot of special team snaps. And it's not an ability thing. I don't know. we don't often see like veteran players kind of hanging on to their career and just being special teamer. I think we'll see him probably in just like a sparsely used situational player, and then a really nice backup where you feel, hey, if something happens to Caden Stearns, who does have a bit of an injury history himself, you can throw Kareem Jackson in there, and you have an incredibly intelligent player who I think is probably a good fit for what Vance Joseph wants to do at this point in his career. Playing downhill a lot more, playing around the line of scrimmage more, probably fits him well. It's for that reason I think there's actually, the more I think about it, maybe a good chance he beats out Caden Stearns, because he fits that strong safety role pretty well, and you could keep using Caden Stearns as a nickel or a dime player.
Zach, when you bring up the special teams, though, I will say I think you're highlighting what he can't and subtracting from what he can. The other special teams players, though, they're not the locker room presence that Kareem Jackson is. You can add the best special teams player in the league to this Broncos team, and he's not going to be the locker room presence that Kareem Jackson is. He can lead this team through the locker room. I really do think that. I think he demands that respect. You're bringing back a lot of the same secondary. Obviously, you're adding some people. But the starters know. These guys know who Kareem Jackson is, and they already respect him from years in the past. Kareem Jackson, I think, could retire and become a coach tomorrow, from everything I've heard on this podcast. So I think there's value to keeping him on the team, whether he's playing or not. I just really, really do think that. Give him a paycheck to come back on this team, because there's value there. There definitely is. Just as a culture guy, he helps build the culture of the Denver Broncos. So I'm a big fan of just keeping Kareem Jackson. I don't think that he should win the job from Stearns outright, though. I think that his role should be to be the locker room guy. I really do think that. I think Stearns should get his opportunity, and I think Kareem Jackson should serve as good depth. Really good depth, maybe even, right? A guy that could start on other teams if he does come in for a 3-game stretch and play really, really solid during those 3 games. So there is big positives to keeping Kareem around. Do I think that he should beat Caden Stearns? No, I don't think that.
I think there's going to come a time where the torch needs to be passed, and they've been doing a really great job of facilitating that transition. I still have to see it. I know that there's some injury concerns still with Caden Stearns. He's been very upfront with us about how that hip was feeling. So I'm not too concerned about his ability to start this season, but I think Kareem Jackson is that continuity piece that you need going into the season with new tutelage. You have a new head coach, you have a new defensive coordinator. I think it's really important to keep Kareem Jackson exactly where he's at least for the time being, until it no longer works. If it's not serviceable anymore, then I think it's completely understandable to move on and go with Caden Stearns, because he's more than proven that he's ready for this task at hand. I just think Kareem Jackson serves it's like a trifold of importance here. So you've already talked about locker room presence, but also on the field, it's been really important with him being across from Justin Simmons, being those veterans of the pack, to continue to bring up those new players. And I think that proves positive for this season, because you've seen so much change and turnover that you don't really want to mess with that key piece of the defense. Joey, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, Bree, I totally agree with you. And just to bolster your point, you know what the biggest difference is? Because I know we both agree on the Brandon McManus point of, hey, this guy is a little bit of a vocal locker room guy. The biggest difference between these two, right, is even with the Vic Fangio, who players really didn't like, and I'm a big Vic Fangio guy, but I can definitely admit that a lot of the players did not like him. Vic Fangio is like, hey, Kareem Jackson's my favorite player I've coached. Like, he can get along with whoever. This is a big plus with him, and why you keep a Kareem Jackson around compared to why you keep a Brandon McManus around. It's a little different. You have a guy that's rolling out coaches in press conferences versus a guy that's like, nobody likes his coach, and the coach is like, yeah, you know what? This is my favorite player I've ever coached in my life. Like, I love Kareem Jackson. So it's a big thing. Kareem Jackson is the vet you want to keep around.
Vic Fangio liked about 2 players during his Broncos tenure, Kareem Jackson and Teddy Bridgewater. Bree, I'm curious, do you think Kareem Jackson, outside of, because I think we're all in agreement, it seems, premium backup, A+ locker room culture guy. Do you think he could have a week-to-week situational role?
I think at the start of my question, it was the start of my answer was basically until proven otherwise, I don't see any reason you wouldn't start Kareem Jackson.
Interesting.
I think
Okay,
that
I
if it's
like
week
that.
to week, you make the adjustments necessary, and that if it becomes an issue where we saw a couple of maybe miscommunications, which happens on the defense, people get crossed up, they miss their coverage all the time. Cornerbacks and safeties alike are bound to be burned at some point. I don't think it's going to be a one mistake and you're out sort of thing. I think it's going to be if it's comfortability's sake, if Caden starts to show things during practice where you try that out and maybe he does get more snaps, then that's just how it plays out. I don't think it's going to be an immediate shift from one of them starting over the other. I do think there is still competition there. I love Caden Stearns and I love Kareem Jackson. Got a big hole in my heart, or a big spot in my heart, for all of the defensive backs. So I'd like all of them to be able to be out there on the field at once, but I don't think you can legitimately run a good defense with all of them out there. So yeah, I think it could be on a week to week, but I fully intend to see Kareem Jackson out there starting. All right. I like the conversation. It didn't get too angry. Sorry, Joey. I was just talking right over you.
No, it's fine. I was just agreeing with you. Like, yeah, I could definitely see that. I think that Kareem Jackson serves a role, to your point, on this team. Do I think that he's your every down guy? No, but can he play a role? He can definitely play a role. That's something he's proved that he can do. So, yeah, I expect Kareem Jackson to see the field undoubtedly.